Hello, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me here this morning on Narcissism 101, Cracking the Code with me, Paul Wisdom. Good morning, guys. Hope everybody's having a great morning so far. Hope you're having a great start to your week on this Monday. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Before we get into what we're going to talk about today, if you would like a one-on-one session, please email me at paul.wisdom_03@hotmail.com. Or you can send a text message, 647-406-3057. If you want to talk, if you want to vent, if you need some more advice about your situation, if you're trying to figure out whether the person you're dealing with is a narcissist or not, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to, get you the help that you need. But what I would say is, if you want to call, just send a text to that number and just let me know that it's you, just so that I know it's you. Because if you just call me from any number, I may just block your number, unfortunately, because I just don't answer, random numbers like that. So just send a text. Let me know your name. Let me know you want some help with your experience, and I'll be more than happy to get you the help that you need. All right, so let's get into what we're going to talk about today. So, what we're going to talk about today is the endless to-do lists. Yes, the endless to-do lists. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you were doing everything, but then you were getting nothing in return? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where everything you do is not good enough? Did you ever feel like you were in a situation where you were looking for answers, that you were looking for answers to questions that would never come? Well, when you're dealing with a narcissist, you can expect that you will have an endless to-do list. And I can assure you right now, if this is the first video you're watching, and thank you so much for being here with me on the channel, I'm sure right now you feel overwhelmed. You feel like nothing you do is good enough. You feel like you're doing everything. You're doing all the cooking. You're doing all the cleaning. You're doing all the baking. You're paying all the bills. You're raising the kids. If you had any kids with your narcissistic person you're considering right now, you're planning events, you're paying for stuff for yourself, your family, and on the narcissist's behalf as well. You feel like you're doing so much, and it feels as though at times you're overwhelmed, you're tired, you're exhausted. You feel like asking for help, but then anytime you ask for help, you always get made to seem like you're not good enough, or why are you asking for help, or why is it that you can't do this stuff on your own? I can do this stuff in my sleep, or you get invalidated like that. Or let's say that you plan to celebrate your birthday, or even the narcissist's birthday, and right now you don't know they are a narcissist, but things are starting to click for you right now. Let's say that you planned something for their birthday, and let's say that when you planned something for their birthday, they said, "Oh, why did you do this for me?" And then you're just like, because it's your birthday. I always surprise you, don't I? And then you're scratching your head. Now you're confused. And now what the narcissist is doing inside their head is they're saying, "Oh my gosh, this is perfect. I know exactly how to make this person upset." And I'm getting supply, meaning energy, from seeing this person upset. I'm getting energy from them, and then their energy is going down. So it's a spiritual, exchange between you and the narcissist, right? And so when it comes down to it, guys, you feel like the endless to-do list, it just gets longer and longer and longer and longer every single day. Let's say that you're at work, for example, and I can say that I've been through this myself. When I worked for a company in the past, I worked for them for 3 years. At one point, I felt like I was doing everything. Like I was, running the whole kitchen by myself, even though there were, 3 people, in the kitchen. I felt like I was all on my own. I was, setting up that section. I was setting up that section. I was doing this. I was doing that. I wasn't getting help. My supervisor, my manager was just sitting in their office, and they weren't looking to help me with anything. And, I was expected to, do everything. And, I've been doing this for a while, like for months. I've been doing this for a while. And so, because I'd worked so hard, and throughout my 3 years working with the company, I never got a promotion, I never got a pay raise or anything like that. I went to my direct manager and I said, "Hey, is there?" And I requested, can I get a raise? I requested it because I was like, I've been here for 3 years, and I'm seemingly really good at what I do because every section I learned everything. And I went up to my manager and he was like, I was like, can I request a raise? And I said it differently, but I'm not going to go into what exactly I said. But I said I requested a raise, and then they said, I'll get back to you on that. And then reality is they never got back to me on that. And I felt like, and at the end of the day, I did end up resigning from that job. But what I'm saying here is that, let's say that you're at work, and let's say that you're working your ass off and you're doing everything. You're training the employees. You're doing this work, doing that workload and all that. And you've been working for the company for, let's say, even more than 3 years. Maybe you've been there for 10 years. Maybe you've been there all your life. I don't know. But you're not getting any promotions for some reason. But do you want to know the answer? Do you want to know why you're not getting those promotions? It has nothing to do with your race. It has nothing to do with your educational level. It has nothing to do with your it has nothing to do with your abilities. Because I'll tell you this, that boss, they know that you are capable of doing that job. They know you're amazing at your job. But you know what happened? The boss that boss you're working for, they are intimidated by you. They are jealous and envious of you, and they are insecure. They know that if they were to promote you, if they were to give you that raise, they know that you would outperform them any day of the week. And that boss can't have that because they're insecure. And that's why you end up leaving the company, and good employees end up leaving the company. And then that boss, they treat the next employee like that, and the next employee and the next employee. They treat everybody like that until they themselves move on, right? And so what I'm saying here is that you can never do anything good enough when you're dealing with a narcissist, right? Let's say that you're married to them, let's say, right? Let's say that's your husband or your wife, and again, if it's your first time watching, and if it's your first time on this channel, thank you so much for being here. Let's say it's your husband or your wife, and let's say that you guys have been married for quite some time. Let's say it's been 3 years, 2 years, however many years you want. You can put anything in the blanks you want. Let's say you've been married to them for quite some time, or you're married to them. Okay. Let's just say that, you're doing everything, right? Let's say that, and it doesn't have to be specifically marriage. It can even be, you can just be in a relationship with them living together. But let's say for this example, you're married to them, for example, because I was married to my ex-wife. But let's say you're married to them, okay? And let's say that you're doing everything, right? You're doing all the cooking, you're doing all the cleaning, you're paying all the bills, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you're picking up groceries, and you're doing this, and you're doing that. And then, when you go pick up the groceries, let's say that, let's say there's some cookies at the store, and you picked up, let's just say, for example, you picked up the right cookies, but you didn't pick up the right brand of those cookies, for example. And let's say that you bring them home, and let's say that your spouse or your partner, whomever they are, who turns out to be a narcissist, let's just say that you pick them up, and then they look at, and then you bring them home, and then they say, "What are these?" And then you're just like, "They're cookies." And then they're just like, why didn't you get the other ones? And then they're berating you, and they're going off on you, and they're making a big deal about it. Now, hold on. I need to make something clear. I'm not trying to say that if you pick up something from the store and you get it wrong, I'm not saying that if your spouse, makes a request and says, "Could you go get this or that?" and they don't blow up at you. I'm not saying they're a narcissist. It's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that the narcissist, what they're going to do is, if, let's say that, using this situation, let's say that you pick up the wrong cookies from the store, they will throw a rage fit at you and yell and scream at you and say, "You're not good enough for anything." And then they're yelling in your face, they're getting in your face. And then for days, you get the silent treatment for days. And you're trying to figure out what the heck you did wrong. Was this all for some cookies? Well, the truth is that two things. One, it was the cookies, but the second thing was that the narcissist, they are not happy with anybody. They can't be satisfied. There's no way to actually satisfy a narcissist because they're always looking to create chaos. because that's their way of creating chaos. And once they create chaos, then that creates confusion. And I've said this in most of my videos because it's true. Even in this situation, now when they're screaming at you and yelling at you and giving you the silent treatment after, now you're confused and you're just like, but it's just some cookies. We've been married for 20 something years. Why are you getting so mad over some cookies? And then when the narcissist is giving you the silent treatment, what they are hoping for is that you will come back and you will apologize to them. They won't apologize to you for them screaming and getting in your face. They won't say, "I'm so sorry. I was acting a bit irrational. I just had a bad day, and don't worry about the cookies. I'll go purchase it myself." No, they're not going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to give you the silent treatment, and they're going to expect you to apologize, and they're going to continue to give you the silent treatment until they figure that it's time to stop giving you the silent treatment. They will decide it. So in a narcissist's eyes, you can't do anything right. You're always given the endless to-do list. And maybe in your home, maybe even though you do all the cooking, cleaning, and everything, maybe the narcissist, they give you a to-do list, and then they're saying, and that to-do list has like 40 items on it, and while the narcissist just sits there on their smartphone, or sits there on their tablet, or sits there watching TV, or sits there with Cheetos and Doritos in their hands, and they're just eating them while you're doing all the to-do list, and they're smirking at you, and they're watching you, and then they're smiling at you, and then you're sitting there like, you could help, right? And then they give you the silent treatment, or they start to blame you and say, "Oh, you don't do this or you don't do that," even though you do all the cooking, you do everything. And you even work outside the home. You work outside the home. You work inside the home. You help raise the kids and all that. And then they have the audacity to come at you and scream at you and yell at you and think that they deserve parents or the year or spouse of the year. And then you're confused and you're just like, what is going on here? Well, what's going on there is that the narcissists, again, they're never satisfied with anyone. And I can tell you right now, they're giving you an endless to-do list. You're not the only one that's getting an endless to-do list from them. They're doing it with everybody. They're doing it with their siblings. They're asking their siblings to do things for them, to pay this bill for them, to go to the store and get this for them, to do this and that. They do it to their parents. They ask their parents to do things for them. They ask their friends to do things for them. They at work, they're half the time they're not even doing their jobs. They're making everybody else's life miserable. I remember when I was married to my ex-wife, and I wanted to believe inside my mind that she was going to work and doing her job because she was getting paid quite a substantial amount of money. So I thought, I don't even know if it's true anymore. But when she went to one of her jobs, and I think this was in the third year close to the ending of our marriage, I remember when she went to one of her jobs, she came home to me one day and she said, one of the people at the job quit. And it was a result of something I said. Now in my head, I wanted to think, okay, I didn't want to, challenge her on it because at that time, I had just had enough because she just drove me nuts to that point. I didn't care at that point. So, she was telling me this person quit because of something she said to them. And now I understand that, yeah, this is what narcissists do. What they do is that they make everybody else's life miserable so that people can walk away from them, and so that many people just not to the point where people don't want anything to do with them. Right? And so what you need to understand, guys, here's the thing. Many people are going to ask me, but what if I'm given the endless to-do list in my marriage, let's say, what do I do if I'm given this endless to-do list? Well, I'll tell you this, and this is the truth. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. You have the choice to make. You can choose to do that thing, or you can choose not to do that thing. Now, of course, it depends on what narcissist you're dealing with. This is why I say you need to watch my videos so that you can understand the different types of narcissists, right? If you're dealing with a malignant narcissist who's physically, who's dangerous and can physically attack you and do bodily harm to you, like punch you out or kick you or slap you in the face or do any of that stuff. If you're with a malignant narcissist, you need to make sure that you get yourself and get in touch with your friends, your close friends, and people who you trust, And also make sure that you start documenting things on paper. Obviously, document when you're dealing with any narcissist. But what I'm saying is if you're dealing with a malignant narcissist and they put their hands on you, then at least you have it down on paper and you can show the police, say, hey, officer, this is what was happening to me at home. And then you document everything and then you have a get out of jail free card there. Also, make sure that you make sure that you have close friends and, like I said, people you trust, so that you can tell them about what you're experiencing, and then they can what you do is when the narcissist is in home, you get as much stuff as you can, and then you bring that stuff with you, and then you don't go back there until it's safe to do so. You call the police and you say, officer, I live at this address. I need to go get some things. I need a escort to escort me in and out so that I'm safe, and then you protect yourself like that. If you're dealing with a malignant narcissist, that is. Now, if you're dealing with a covert narcissist, then do the same thing. Document everything. The difference with, again, covert narcissists is that coverts, they're sneaky. They do things underhand. They won't physically attack you like malignants will. They don't usually yell at people unless you have them backed into a corner. They do things very insidiously, and they do things very, calculated. And they want to do things without people knowing, that they're actually doing them, right? And so, again, with the covert narcissist, document everything. Make sure that you have, all your ducks in a row when you're in these situations. And you don't have to do anything that you want. If you don't want to do it, what you do, especially because now that you watch my video, you figured out you're dealing with a narcissist. What you do is if they ask you to do something you don't want to do it, just say no. Just say the word no. And then if they blow up at you, just ignore them. Just don't give them any attention. Gray rock them. Become dull and boring, right? Just don't give them any attention. Because when you do that, the narcissist, what you need to understand too, is that narcissists know exactly what they're doing. They know when somebody's catching on. They know when somebody has figured them out. They know when somebody wants nothing to do with them. They know when somebody's getting stronger and is starting to break free of the fog and is starting to get out of the fog and see them for who they are. The narcissist knows that, right? And so when you start giving them, when you start, gray rocking them and, acknowledging them and saying, and you see them and you say, and then you just do that and just walk away. If you're doing that, then the narcissist knows that, especially if it's a covert narcissist, what they're going to do, and they've been doing this, and all narcissists have been doing this, before they met you. What they were doing is they were spreading the smear campaign about you, meaning that they were telling flat out lies to people about who you are. They were telling lies about your character. Even though you're a good person, the narcissist is going around and telling everybody, that your friends, your family, and everybody, that you're a bad person, that you're a drug addict, that you're mentally unstable, that you're crazy, that, you abuse them, that you are the narcissist. And so the narcissists, they do this, right? And so when they're doing this, you don't need to give it any attention, because essentially what the narcissist is doing when they're doing that is that they're just projecting their own insecurities. They're projecting who they are onto other people. They're pretty much confessing who they are. So when they're telling people that you are mentally unstable, that you're a drug addict, that you're a narcissist, when they're saying that to other people, they're talking about themselves. They're saying that to hide from the things that they have actually done to you. Because narcissists, remember, I made a video on this, and if you're new to my channel, go watch that video. It's entitled Accountability. Narcissists do not like accountability. It makes them scared, because if they have to take accountability, that means they have to think about all the people's lives that they've destroyed, all the people that they've lied to, all the people that they've stolen money from, all the people that they've driven, wedges in relationships between, all the families that they've destroyed. Narcissists, they do this every single day of their lives. But the thing is that you just don't see it happening, because the narcissist won't tell you that. Because think about it. If they were to tell you that, would you ever get in a relationship with them? Probably not. You probably wouldn't. You'd probably just walk away, or you would probably just not want anything to do with them, right? So what I'm saying here, guys, is that you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. Don't let anybody force you into doing something that you want to do. Whether it's if you're a woman and a guy's trying to coerce you into doing something that you don't want to do, don't do it. Just say no. Obviously, you need to be careful, because there are a lot of men who can physically attack you and kill you. I understand that. I do understand that, right? If you know that you're in a situation where you're helpless and you don't know how to get out, again, you need to make sure that you document everything, right? So if you feel, so listen to me, if you feel like if you feel uncomfortable in a situation, like you feel like you're walking around on eggshells, you feel scared, you're waiting for the next shoe to drop, whether you're at home with your parents or your siblings, and it's a family situation where you feel scared of your father, your mom, or your brother, or your sister, or your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, or you feel scared. Let's say that you feel scared and you're walking around on eggshells, you're uncomfortable, you're helpless, you don't know what to do. What I would say again, get a piece of paper, start documenting how you're feeling, start documenting the things that they're doing, the things that they're saying to you. And then what you do is, when it's safe to do so, you take that piece of paper, and then what you do is you get in touch with a friend or somebody you trust, and then you get them to, go with you to the cops or something like that. You show it to the police, and then what they will do is they will assess, and you will be safe like that. Okay, but you need to do what you need to do to, protect yourself, because narcissists are evil and they will destroy you if they get the chance to. You also have to remember, narcissists, they come in many different shapes and sizes. They speak different languages. They are of different ethnicities. They're of different skin colors. But the truth is that they all play by the same playbook, and they will come at you at different angles. And what narcissists are doing, what people are doing now, and narcissists, the devil, Satan himself, what he is doing is he is flipping the script. So instead of you finding out that the person is a narcissist, what Satan is doing now is he's actually making people, sending people, and making those people claim that they've been through the narcissistic experience, but those people actually turned out to be narcissistic. This happens a lot, especially in the church. It happens a lot. People, are like wolves in sheep's clothing. They claim to be one person that claims that they've been through, hard times. They've been through tough times. They start crying the fake tears and all that nonsense. And then they turn out to be, then you find out that they're a narcissist, right? So what I'm saying is that you need to make sure that you assess, you be careful, you watch out for the red flags, that you pay attention, right? That you don't just listen to people's words. Watch their actions. Do their actions match their words, right? Because words are powerful, right? And words mean something. That's why you need to listen to what people are actually saying, right? Now, if it's your first video you're watching, I understand. You probably never have heard of this stuff before. But what I'm trying to show you is that people like this exist. They do exist. They're out there. They're all around us, right? So, even when I was married to my ex-wife, I also remember when she had this habit. And it was so strange. She had this habit of making all these lists. Like, she would have like 5 lists with like 10 different things or like 20 things on those lists. And weeks went by and a lot of these things never even got done. Right? And the list would just sit there on her desk, and I'd be like, "Yo, babe, are you gonna do any of those things anytime soon? Do you need my help? Do you want me to help you do any of it?" And then her response was, "No, you already do so much." And I'm just like, "But babe, these lists have been here for months now, and you haven't done anything with them. And for somebody that has a lot of things to do, you're just sitting there on the couch and you're on your phone and you're doing absolutely nothing." So I'm just saying, like, do you think you need to, get ahead on those things? And she's sitting there saying, I don't get anything done. And, I have so much to do. And then I'm just like, well, for somebody that has so much to do, you're obviously sitting there wasting so much time. And I'm just confused because I started doing things and helping out. And then she's like, no, don't touch that. No, don't touch that. Don't put that there. Don't put that there. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to keep my hands free and not touch your stuff. So what I'm saying here, guys, is that nothing is ever good enough for the narcissist. You can't win. You won't win. Nothing you ever do is good enough. You could do everything. You could work 3 jobs. You can make thousands of dollars, and you could have all of that, and that still won't be good enough for the narcissist. Why? Because narcissists are never satisfied. There always needs to be, something new in the wings for the narcissist, because they can't just settle down with one person, because the demons inside of their mind, inside of their disordered brain, those demons are telling them how to act towards people. This is real, guys. The demons that are inside the narcissist's brain are telling them exactly what to do to people, right? They're telling them what to do. They tell them to, say this. They tell them to say that, because narcissists are predators. Narcissists are the devil in human form. The devil, he's a very sneaky creature, and he lurks behind the shadows. He lurks, around like a wolf in sheep's clothing. The devil is like a cloak, wearing a cloak with a dagger in the hands, going around daggering people at random, right? And so this is why I say, guys, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do for anybody. I don't care if it's your parent, if it's your sibling, if it's your aunts, your uncle, your you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You can easily just say no, because you have the freedom. You can choose to do whatever you want. Nobody can tell you what to do. Now, I understand, if you're a teenager and you still live with your parents, I get it. It's not that easy. I mean, you can say no to them, but at the same time, just understand there may be consequences. They may say, okay, well, if you're going to say no, then get out of my house. Well, if they say get out of my house, and let's say that, you probably have nowhere to go. You can't live with your friends or anything like that. Then you might be in a little helpless situation. But what I would say is that, make sure that you assess your situations properly. Make sure that you don't do something that you're going to regret. Obviously, every situation and circumstance is different. But what I would say is just be smart. Be smart in the decisions that you make. Right? Now, when it comes down to the endless to-do list, though, nothing you ever do will ever be good enough for the narcissist. You could even do everything on the to-do list, and they will know what they'll say at the end of all that. They're going to say, I didn't ask you to do that. You didn't have to do that. And they'll gaslight you, and now you're confused. You're just like, but I just helped you do this whole list. Everything on the list, plus everything else I do. And then they give you the silent treatment. Maybe they give you the silent treatment for the whole day. Maybe they withhold sex or affection for, a week or a weekend. Maybe they ghost you for a weekend and claim, I'm busy or I'm with one of my friends or this or that. They're lying to you. They're not busy. They're with your replacement, love bombing them. And what they're going to do is that they're going to start an argument with that replacement, and then they're going to come back to you, and then they're going to smile, and then they're going to give you, an intentional argument. So narcissists, they live in a cycle. They do all the same exact things, right? But they only do it in different time zones, depending on, depending on what those people can provide for them for that time. So if you know somebody, and let's say that you're dealing with the narcissist that they dealt with, right? That narcissist is gonna do the same exact thing to you. The only difference is that they're gonna do it based on, and they're gonna base it off what you provide for them. So if you provide good sex, then they will stick around for the good sex for the time. If you have money, they're going to see how much money they can take from you until all your money is gone, and then you end up filing bankruptcy guilty like me. Or what they're going to do is they're going to stick around. If you're a chef, if you're a cook, they're going to stick around for the good times with all the good food and all that. And then once you've cooked your butt off for many years, and once you get sick and tired of it and you get tired of doing that, then the narcissist is going to say, your cooking's not that great or this or that. And then they start invalidating you and bringing other food into the house. That's what my ex-wife started doing. The thing is, what was interesting about that was that she claimed to always love my food. She would always eat my food. She would always enjoy it. I would always cook it the same way. And then it hit a point where she started, purchasing food from other places, and she would bring it home. And then I would say, but I cooked dinner for us. What are you doing? You just spent all this money on all this food, and that's not even going to fit in the fridge. And then she stares at me, and then she says, well, I forgot. And then I'm just like, what are you talking about? You know that I cook every single day. And then she's looking at me saying, well, I forgot. Why do you have to be so serious? And I'm just like, what? And I'm just sitting there confused because I don't know what the heck is going on. So what I'm saying here is that with the narcissist, it's never good enough. It's always going to be an endless to-do list, an endless cycle of abuse with them. And I can tell you right now, if you were just discarded, I understand that you could be just discarded, meaning that you probably just came home to an empty house, or you opened your phone and you saw a text from your narcissist saying, I was never in love with you, I don't love you, I actually hate you a lot, or they say I'm leaving you, I cheated on you, whatever they did, however they discarded you. if you were just discarded, I understand that this is gonna be hard for you to understand that they never loved you and they never cared about you. But thing is that their discarding of you, that was actually a blessing in disguise, because what that says is that they found somebody who's now a more viable source of supply, and they're gonna destroy that supply way more than they tried to destroy you. They're gonna do the same thing. It's just in a different time zone, depending on what that person provides for them. All right, so that's what I wanted to talk about today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today again on Narcissism 101 Cracking the Code with me, Paul Wisdom. Again, if you want a one-on-one session, please email me, paul.wisdom_03@hotmail.com, or send a text message 647-406-3057. If you want to vent, if you need some more advice, if you need some help with your narcissistic experience, please feel free to reach out to me. Just remember, if you're going to call, send a text to the number. Let me know it's you before you call, just so that I know it's you, and then I can get you the help, and then we can move you forward in that direction. All right? So thank you so much for being here again, guys. I hope that you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thank you so much for being here.